Okay, we're good to go.
All right.
All right, I'd like to call to order the Thursday, August 6th, 2020 Policy and Education Subcommittee meeting. Thank you for joining us today, and I think we're ready to dive right into our agenda. So the first item on the agenda is finalizing the recommendation for the BHS administrative titles. Dr. Hackett, is this something you'd like to update us on?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair. So this has been a topic of conversation for the last couple of months now. It really originated from a couple of parents, actually, as part of some of the conversations and communications we were receiving on the overall topic of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We also then brought it to our district-wide diversity committee, and had the discussion. Jim is a co-chair of that committee. So Jim, jump in if I miss anything, but the group discussed it, and I really feel that it is an important change, although we know historically that there is not a connection to slavery with the terms housemaster, headmaster. But we're also talking about kids in high school who are 15 to 18 years old who are affected by it. And one of the comments was made that when we have a student who has a message in the office or gets sent for something to the housemaster's office, and they are of color, and the teacher says, you need to go to the housemaster's office, that has an effect on kids. So I think it's a relatively simple change. I know it is a change, but we also are among there are very few school systems that use that title for the high school administration. I don't even know how many there are left, but several of them have already made this change. So I think it's time for the change. I brought it to you on behalf of the diversity subcommittee. They would like to see that happen. We've had some discussion around this. I did review, if I can just do this real quickly. I did review the principal and assistant principal existing job descriptions, and they are identical to what they're identical to each other. So the title of this is the housemaster Braintree High School. You can see the qualifications. You can see the job responsibilities here. They're categorized instructional leadership, management and operations, family and community engagement. And then when you look at the job description for, that was the housemaster one. And if we look at the assistant principal one, you can see that even though this is for the middle school, you can see that it's almost identical in terms of instructional leadership, management of operations. So there's no change in job responsibilities. I've had the conversation with Kyle Frederick, who is, as you know, the president of the BEA. The BEA is in full agreement that there is no change in responsibilities. There's no change in compensation. We are going to put together a memorandum of or side letter, essentially, to make that agreement official. We should have that done and ready for the school committee's consideration on Monday. So those are the communications we've had, and I think it's a good change. So I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Any questions from the subcommittee?
Yeah, if I may, Madam Chair.
Sure.
Dr. Hackett, thank you for the update. So it's my understanding that the housemasters are union positions, right? But the headmaster is not. Is
Correct.
that correct?
That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So
Yep.
is there any challenge with the headmaster versus principal language?
No, because the headmaster is on an independent personal services contract. I've had a conversation with Dr. Scully, and what he shared with me is that whenever he goes to some kind of regional principals group, and people will go around and introduce themselves, or when he signs up for something, a conference or workshop, he he puts principal because he feels that headmaster, if nothing else, sounds a bit pretentious. So, everyone at the high school, Dr. Scully talked to all three of the housemasters. Everyone's on board for the change.
Okay, thank you, Doctor.
Certainly.
Great. I guess my only comment would be that clearly this is the right thing to do, and I get to trot out my favorite expression that two things can be true at the same time. And in this case, it's the fact that, while these titles aren't necessarily derived from something offensive and aren't intended to be used that way, the fact is if people are offended by them, and the job descriptions and responsibilities are the same, and we're pretty much down to, a single hand's worth of people in the state that are using it, I see no reason not to change it. So personally, I'm glad that we're moving forward with this. Do we need a motion to bring it to the full school committee?
You could probably do it either way. You can either take a motion to bring that as the actual formal recommendation, or you could take a motion to send this to the school committee for discussion and for them to take the action. It's really your discretion.
Okay. Let's do it that way. I'd like to entertain a motion to bring this for discussion and a vote at the overall school committee meeting on Monday.
Okay, can I just ask a point of clarification, Madam Chair?
Of course.
So I think what Dr. Hackett is saying is we could take a vote to give our recommendation to the full committee and bring it forward.
Right.
So is your motion, are you asking for a motion to do that?
Well, what I heard was we could either do that or make a motion just to bring the whole thing and the conversation surrounding it to the full school committee on Monday.
So
okay.
you could either bring your recommendation as a subcommittee that the school committee make the change, and you essentially approve the change at this level for the school committee to consider, or you can take action to just bring it for discussion and action by the full school committee on Monday night.
And that was my inclination, the latter, but I also have no problem making a vote and a recommendation from this subcommittee as well. So let me know what you guys think.
Okay, it would be my preference for us to make a vote and bring it back to the full school committee with our recommendation.
With our recommendation. Okay, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Cyril, are
yeah.
you?
Any other comments, Mr. Chafe? I'm going to take that as a no.
Let me just, he's muted. Let me
Oh,
see
okay.
if I can. I'm not able to unmute him, so.
Okay. Well.
Okay, so let's revise the motion. So I'd like to entertain a motion to make a recommendation to the overall school committee that we move forward with the changes of title from headmaster and housemaster to principal and assistant principal, respectively.
And I will make that motion, Madam Chair.
Okay, great. And I will second it. So we'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Kokoris?
Aye.
Mr. Chafe?
No.
And I vote aye, so that would make it 2-1. So we will move this recommendation to the full school committee on Monday evening. Great. So if we're ready to move on to our next item on the agenda, which is around the BHS mascot. I have an update on this. I spoke to the mayor, I believe it was yesterday. He has been, as we know, in conversation with Fairies Gray, the tribal leader of the Massachusetts tribe. And in the course of their conversation, they came to an agreement that an appropriate first step would be to remove any association of Native American imagery from the school system and, from other instances around the town. So it's the mayor's recommendation and request that we move forward with removing any instance of Native American imagery associated with the schools and replace it with a simple blue letter B for now. and this would be a continuing conversation, but it's his sentiment that, he'll be expressing and giving an update on at Monday's school committee meeting that that we should be moving forward with the removal of that imagery. And again, the conversation will continue. Any comments or questions on that update?
Just two things, a comment and then a question. One of the things that we have done, and we started this quite some time ago, actually, when we were creating our new website, we don't have images. We actually, for Braintree High School, are using the blue B, the solid letter B. So that is how we've been branding ourselves in social media. You'll also see that on, with the exception of a couple of departments, athletics specifically, but Braintree High School on Twitter, you'll see that the blue B is what we are using. And I also just a question for clarification that I'm now forgetting what it was, but what your conversation with the mayor, what was that the intent would be to take action Monday night to eliminate the Native American imagery. Is that, am I understanding that right?
That's right. That is going to be the item that he puts forth for the committee.
Okay.
So any other questions, comments?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So I'm glad we're moving forward with this step. I will say that I hope that this conversation continues, and I plan to elaborate a little more on that at our Monday night meeting. I do feel like this is an appropriate discussion for the entire school committee. And so, I've mentioned to a couple of folks that we won't be doing public comment today because I think it's important for the entire school committee to hear the thoughts of the community on this, and also vice versa. I think it's important for the entire community to hear what we think about this as well. And so I think that's also in line with the fact that a number of the emails that we received expressed some dissatisfaction with the fact that initially this was referred to the Policy and Education Subcommittee, and that it is something that should be heard by the full school committee. So that is in fact really what is happening at this point. And so I think, while I certainly welcome you guys to make any kind of statement that you so choose at this time, I'm simply sharing that, I will be sharing my thoughts on the topic at the meeting on Monday.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair.
Sure.
If I may.
Please.
So I think on this agenda item, we're going to take a different approach, correct? I think what we're going to do here is we're going to move to bring it back to the full committee for a discussion with the full committee rather than come with a recommendation from this subcommittee. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I was clear. So if there's no discussion, I'd be happy to make that motion.
Okay, that would be great. So the motion is, just to be clear, that we are taking the entire discussion about the mascot and referring it back to the full school committee. So thank you for making that motion. I will second it. So we'll do a roll call vote on this. Mr. Kokoris?
Aye.
Mr. Chafe?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. So that is unanimous that this conversation will happen at a school committee level on Monday. And the mayor will provide that update for us. That concludes our agenda items. So any questions or comments from the committee?
Did we want to give an update on the communication plan before Monday, or do we want to do that Monday at the school committee meeting?
That's up to you. If you'd like to give an update here, I think that's fine.
Okay.
I would just mention that you don't have that on the agenda as an item for consideration for the policy subcommittee. So, but that would not certainly prohibit you from providing that update at the school committee meeting on Monday night.
Okay, I think we'll leave it there then. Yep.
Let's do that, and maybe on the next agenda we can include it, because personally I keep forgetting to ask for an update for it because it's not on the agenda. So maybe for the next couple of meetings at least, that can be sort of a standing item as we get that up and running.
Yeah, and maybe in future agendas we should put in communications or open items as we do in the general school committee meeting.
Mm-hmm. Okay, sounds good. So I guess that will conclude our meeting. Can I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second it. So we'll do our roll call vote. Mr. Kokoris,
Aye.
Mr. Chafe, Mr. Chafe. Okay.
I think we actually lost Mr. Chafe. So
Okay.
yes.
And I'll vote aye as well. So we are adjourned and look forward to continuing the discussions on these topics on Monday.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Hey, have a good weekend.
Good night.